Welcome to the Leave of Absence Manager's Overview video. I am Cami Rodriguez, Staff HR Leave Coordinator, and joining me is Tess Waldo, Benefits Analyst and Operations Coordinator. We work within Staff HR at UC Santa Cruz.
Leave of absence presentations. This one is really geared towards managers and sort of a checklist and what they should know, can know, and utilize as a resource in working with employees and the leave coordinator during the time an individual and employee needs to be out on a leave. So we will be looking at what is family medical leave, also known as an FML? What is in eligibility? What are the eligibility requirements for an FML? Reasons for leaves? What is the pregnancy disability leave and baby bonding? Then the return to work, to knows, and then timekeeping. Okay, so family medical leave is a federal law that protects an employee when they go out, when they need to take time off for medical, for themselves or a family member. The state of California has a leave as well called the California Family Rights Act, and that is state specific. They both provide 12 weeks of job protection time for themselves or a family member. The leaves can be continuous, meaning blocks of time for up to 12 weeks. They can break that out from 1 week, has to be minimum of 5 days. So anywhere from 1 week all the way up to the full 12 weeks at one time. And then intermittent, which is looking more at increments of time defined through frequency and duration. So an example would be an employee needs to take 2 hours a week to attend to doctor's appointment, either for themselves or for a family member. 2 hours a week could be sort of a minimum. We've seen some employees that, might need 5 hours twice a week. So it really is dependent on the employee's needs. All of these leaves, or both of these leaves, are unpaid. And that means that they are job protection only. The unpaid piece can become paid should the employee choose to use their accruals, disability, cat leave donations. So they have options. Then looking at the eligibility requirements for an FML and CFRA. The employee must have 12 months of service. So I think that's going to be fairly easy for most managers to be able to determine, because you would look at their date of hire, date of employment, and we understand that some employees will be transfers or, have worked elsewhere within the UC system. But generally, most employers do have an idea of when that 12 months has been met. The 1,250 hours worked. So this is 12 months of service and 1,250 hours worked over a 12-month period of time. Now, the 1,250 hours worked is actual hours worked. It does not include vacation, sick, leave of absence time. So, if an employee does need to go back out on a leave, they do have to meet the 1,250 hours actually worked. And we have that noted over there. And this is where any time off that they have taken would not count towards those 1,250 hours. Reasons for leave under an FML and CFRA. So in the 4 boxes, we have shared reasons for these leaves. That means both of these leaves will be used concurrently when an employee needs to take a leave of absence. This can be for an employee's own serious health condition, for family members. And there's a list of family members. And I want to call out that there is included within the FML and CFRA combined, concurrent, grandparent and grandchild. But keep in mind, there are FML exceptions. And I will not address the exceptions, but case by case, we would review those and look at if both of those apply. We have the birth and care of a newborn, and then the placement and care of an employee's adopted or foster care. So reasons that are specific to an FML and reasons that are specific to a CFRA. And I'll explain the reasons why we would break those out and make that known to you. FML and CFRA, when run concurrently, provide 12 weeks of protected time off. When you separate an FML and CFRA, we are now looking at 12 weeks of FML and 12 weeks of CFRA because they are separating those job protections. So then under FML, we have the pregnancy and pregnancy-related medical conditions, and that is often referred to as pregnancy disability leave. And pregnancy disability leave runs concurrent with an FML because the two have the shared reasons. CFRA protects a grandchild, grandparent, parent-in-law, and a designated person. Those are leave specific for CFRA that FML does not protect. So the designated person is someone who might be a extended relative, such as an aunt or uncle or cousin, or someone who is like a family member to the employee, such as its example, unmarried partner or best friend. So typically what the law does, the federal law, is they lay a foundation of here are the type of reasons available to an employee for FML, and then state laws can actually better those conditions, and that is what California has done. So designated person, I think for any of us, that's a really nice added individual in which we can take time off to care for. Other types of leaves, also known as leave extensions. Sometimes they are leaves by themselves, not as an extension, but generally as an extension. So we have the disability medical leave. This is for represented staff only, and it is up to 6 months. So if you can see, this one does provide more time than the job protected FML, but these leaves are not necessarily job protected under the law. These are the supplemental and the basic disability, the disability medical are policy extensions through the UC system. They can be used, at least the medical disability, for work-related or non-work-related injuries. It can be used once an employee has exhausted their 12-week, so it can be a standalone by itself, or it comes after a job-protected leave. And it also applies to someone who is under the pregnancy disability. They've used potentially all of their pregnancy disability time, and then they can move into additional medical leave. The supplemental FML is for the PPSM 99 employees once they've exhausted their FML leave entitlement. So it sort of works as a medical disability, but 99 employees do not have an actual medical leave labeled as such. And I did not include it on here, but this is for an additional 12 weeks. And then after that, 99 employees do have the option to look at a personal leave, which is our last other type of leave or leave extension. So a personal leave is available to both the 99 and represented staff. It does require department approval. And at this point in an employee's leave, it does allow for the department to look at their operational needs and the timing of the request. And that means that the department really has an opportunity to look at, can we grant this extra time on this personal leave? And that's really all the department sort of needs to look at that time. Then it comes back to, let's say the department approves it, we move forward on sort of a leave extension. If the department declines this personal leave, then it comes back to the leave of absence. And there will be some conversations on how do we want to move forward with this employee who is no longer or is not on a job protected leave. looking at the pregnancy leave and baby bonding, two separate sort of components to a pregnancy leave. One is both are job protected, and they do have time frames within each one of them. The pregnancy disability leave does not have any eligibility requirements like the FML and CFRA do with the 12 months and 1,250 hours. An employee is eligible for this leave upon hire. A PDL can be up to 4 months, and it is unpaid. I did not include that, but it is also an unpaid leave, and it does allow the employee to look at how they want to be paid. Their options are just about the same as the FML and CFRA. When we look at the 4 months, the 4 months can be taken either before the employee goes out or gives birth, and it can be used post-birth. And so there's so many combinations in which this can be used. If an individual is experiencing a more challenging pregnancy, they might go out 3 months before. They might utilize the entire 4 months before. We generally see anywhere from 30 days to 2 weeks to working to the day right until the day of, but they do have this available to them, and it is job protected. When after PDL and an employee is looking to either move into extending their PDL, we will look at the type of birth they've had. And so an employee could look at 8 weeks of continued PDL under a cesarean birth or 6 weeks under a natural birth. Those are very much the standard timeframes in which doctors allow or provide an employee to take time off. After that time, baby bonding will kick in. To be eligible for baby bonding, the employee does have to be FML or CFRA eligible. Again, going back to the 12 months of employment, 1,250 hours worked. The baby bonding must be taken within 1 year of the date of birth. So an employee might want to break that time up. It does need to be taken in blocks of time, similar to just as you would with the FML or CFRA, 5 days or more. And so an employee might break that up throughout the course of their 1 year within the date of birth, or they might take it all at one time. Some employees might not be eligible for the baby bonding right after they give birth due to the timing of their employment, or perhaps they exhausted their FML and CFRA at some point during the course of the year for another employee leave for themselves or a family member. So eligibility may come later. That could be 6 months later. It could be 2 months later. So want to make managers aware that it might be disruptive to the operations, but that it is job protected, and the employee does have the opportunity to determine when they want to take that time off. Obviously, it would be ideal if the employee works within the department, but we would never want to deny an employee the time in which works best for them in utilizing this baby bonding. The baby bonding is 8 weeks per calendar year of time for them to take off. Again, that can be broken up at any time. Okay, returning to work. This is sort of becoming more and more a key piece of the work that we're doing in the leaves department. Return to work, it's a form, and it is required for any employee who is out on a medical leave for themselves, not for a family member, but for themselves. And so when we're looking at the return to work form, we're looking at, can the employee return to work at full capacity, meaning no restrictions, no modified duties, no part-time work or reduced hours. We're really looking to partner with the managers on this because we want to reduce any risk that might take place with an employee returning who is coming back from a medical condition where they're not completely 100%. So the form is required to return to work. We're asking that because we're in communication with the department on what that return to work date is, we're asking that if the employee does happen to return to work either before that return to work date or on the day of the return that they are scheduled and has not provided that form, we ask that you send them home. That will be for leaves then to follow up with the employee to obtain that return to work form. On our part, we are working with the employee anywhere from a week to 2 weeks before to obtain that return to work form. It's not something that we always have that far in advance. It really can depend on the employee when they see their doctor. So at that time, if we're able to connect with them and let them know, we will inform them that they are not allowed to return to work until we do have that. And then we would reach back out to the department to inform you that that return date would extend until we have that form. At that time, let's just say when we do receive the document, we will review it. We will make sure it's clear. And then if there are any clarifications that are needed, we might need to send the employee back to the doctor to make it more clear if there are work restrictions or modified duties. If the form is complete and there are no issues with their return, they simply return. If there is a need to look at work restrictions or modified duties, we will let you know, and that may require disability management stepping in to look at what the department may need to do to accommodate. Those conversations would come at that time. If there are smaller work restrictions that the department can address, then those are things that would allow the employee to return sooner rather than later. Any engagement with the disability, will take some time to have that conversation and interactive process. Things to know, and specifically looking at how to detect a leave. Not that these are leave specific in which you need to notify us, but things to keep in mind that might have you then notify us after observing for a short period of time. In illness for themselves or a family member, if an employee mentions to you regularly after not having mentioned anything to you, things are fine. They start mentioning that they're not feeling well or they have a family member that's not feeling well, but you're seeing that that type of conversation or communication continues to present itself, it might not hurt to let the employee know that they can reach out to us and have us talk to them, schedule a consultation to see what exactly is going on and can we help in any way. The second type of detecting a leave is, are they out frequently? Is there a change in their attendance or pattern of being out after being, showing up on time, being present regularly? That might indicate that there is something going on with outside of the work environment that they have not yet shared with you or are not comfortable in sharing with you. So you can gently ask them if there is something going on, and you can let them know that we are an option if they want to reach out and speak to us. If an individual is out 3 or more days and it is not looking like they might be returning for a few more days, this is key. They are not looking to return, or if they are looking to return, they don't think they'll be able to provide a medical note for their time off. We really want to encourage you to say, let me keep that in mind. And on the 5th day, this time away, this now short and potentially intended short time out has now turned into time for a leave of absence. It might not qualify for a leave of absence, but this is where the manager can sort of, after maybe talking to the employee, hearing what they might say, their reason for needing to be out, you pass them off to leave if you're hearing there is some type of illness or family situation going on. Initiating a leave. So this is where, sometimes the department or manager might not fully understand what's going on behind the scenes. Anytime an employee does reach out or a manager on behalf of the employee does reach out, we do have a response time of 48 to 72 hours. So please keep that in mind. I do have an out of office. Me personally, I do have an out of office where it does provide, I think each one of us has within our signatures an opportunity for the department or employee to reach out to us outside of an email. You can also leave a voicemail. We do have now a general leave email, and I will provide that to you at the end that you can send that. Just rest assured that we have received it, and our response time is 48 to 72. It can be even sooner depending on the nature of the leave, but we do have many leaves that we work on regularly, and we do need to be able to prioritize based on dates. A lot of it has to do with dates and the timing. So please keep that in mind, is timing of pay for both biweekly and MO. Once an employee has reached out, they do have 15 days to obtain medical certification. And if that's not possible, there is a 7-day extension if they are in communication with us. So during that time, we ask that the department refrain from communicating with the employee. In that time, if they're able to provide us with a medical certification and we review and approve it, we will inform the department. I believe it's within 3 days of receipt of that to let them know that they are officially out on a leave. When it comes to not being able to obtain a medical certification, we will let you know at that time. And that's when potentially any department policies on absences might be applicable, but we would engage with employee relations at that time. But just giving you an idea of, there's 15 days plus an additional 7. Additionally, leaves are not official, meaning they're not officially recorded in UC Pass. That's our system in which we record these. They are not officially recorded until that medical certification has received and that it has been reviewed and approved. So oftentimes we might have a department or an employee who believes that just by reaching out to us, they are officially on a leave of absence. That is not the case. We do need that medical certification. So if your employee happens to call you and lets you know that they've reached out to us and they're on a leave of absence, it's okay to say, well, I've not received a designation notice from them. And what I do know is that until medical certification is received, it's not official. And you can direct them back to us. And we make every effort to make sure the employee understands that. Sometimes it does take a few conversations, but just know that if you're not seeing it maybe set up in your timesheets, because we do use specific pay codes, and you're wondering, why does this not indicate that it's, leave time, or I haven't heard from leaves regarding this has been finalized, it's because we're still waiting on medical certification. Can and cannot, things that we ask that you are allowed to do, we're comfortable with you doing, and things that we ask that you do not do. You will receive from us a designation notice. That designation notice informs you of the type of leave, so you can know the type of leave, if it's FML or CFRA, meaning job protection. It will also include dates of the start and return. It will inform you if their leave is continuous or intermittent. Yes. So those are like the 3 key pieces of information that you can know and need to know, so that when you're looking at your operational needs and you're looking at the timesheets, you have an understanding of where your employee is. You can communicate with the employee in a check-in, but only as a check-in. You can ask, how are you doing? But no work-related topics. We would also even ask that you do not inquire about their return to work. If they mention it, they mention it, but we ask that you not bring that up, because if any of you on this webinar have experienced a leave of absence with an employee before, they're very fluid. Start dates change, return dates change. So it's really best for us to manage all of that communication back to you from the employee. You cannot inquire about medical details. That may come up on the return to work if there are work restrictions and modified duties. However, during the course of the leave, no medical details can be inquired about, both from us or the employee. If an employee, we ask that you not ask for the medical note from the employee. Now, we oftentimes know that sometimes employees don't have immediate access to email, so they will pass it off to the manager. We please ask that you provide it to us as soon as possible, but to make that a part of the leave process on the manager's end, no, a medical note should be passed off to us. So any opportunity you can, please make sure it's directed only to us. We ask, or you cannot ask an employee to perform work of any kind during a leave of absence. This is their time away. They have focus areas in which they need to focus on specifically for, any medical or family. So no work of any kind. Please make sure the employee understands that. We make it clear to them as well. Timekeeping. Maybe the second most important part of a leave of absence for a manager is the timekeeping. So when it comes to working with the manager on this, our first step in communication is we do send an email, typically with the subject line, temporary change in timekeeper. And within that email, there's clear information both to the manager and the regular timekeeper that we will be now the timekeeper on record for the employee while they are out on their leave of absence. And that means that we record any leave time away, and we have specific pay codes that are not accessible to either the timekeeper or the manager. So we must be the ones to enter any of that time. Supervisor delegation. Within this temporary change in timekeeper email, we note in there to the manager and department, if the employee that is going out on a leave happens to be someone who approves timesheets, we need to know as soon as possible so we can get that reassigned. It does not come up very often, but when it does, it comes up right when we're getting ready to run payroll. And then it's, who's going to approve the timesheets for the department? So the sooner you know that someone who approves the timesheets, you don't necessarily need to wait for our email about timekeeper change. You can let us know during the course of the initial leave of absence conversations. Maybe when you get the designation notice, we would like to tighten that piece up. Timesheet submittal and approvals. So an employee who's out on a continuous leave, it's easier to manage their timesheets as a department, because if we're managing that and the employee is going to be out for 3 months, you don't really need to be monitoring that. We will. The intermittent is where it gets a little bit trickier. But what it means is that we both share that timesheet. So if an employee is working and recording intermittent hours of, 2 hours a week, that means the majority of the approval is going to come from the department. And so that is where the supervisor is allowed all the way until the morning of the cutoff of, I think it's 10:30 on Monday mornings to review and approve the timesheet themselves. We go in after that and we approve it and we look at, was there any recording of the FML? Please keep in mind that the FML comment in the timesheet on these intermittent leaves is critical. That is what notifies us that we need to record that as FML, job protected time. This information is provided in the email that we send out. We don't have that happen a lot, at least as far as I know, but it does if it's missed because the comment has not been placed in there. We do an amended timesheet. It just delays the pay. So if you think about it and you know your employees on an intermittent leave and they told you that the time they recorded was for that FML, but you don't see the comment, make an effort during that active pay period to put that in there so that we do not miss anything. There was something else I was going to mention about these, and then I forgot. If I think about it, I'll come back to it. We have a lot of requests on tracking intermittent time away. The manager can do this by a report that's available to them within Cruise Pay. And I've put the path here in the PowerPoint, and then next to it, here is a screenshot of where that report lies. You do have to put in a range date. You do have to determine the assignment groups. So generally yours, if we have, and we always do, we reassign the employee into one of our leave groups, you will need to select that as well. Pay codes, I think we can do better and probably provide you a little guideline, a one-page guideline, but those absence pay codes will include sick FML, leave no pay FML, vacation FML, PFCB. So there's some pay codes. I will send you a follow-up. And so once you select all those pay codes, you put in the employee ID and last name, you can generate a report and it will tell you all of that leave protected time or not protected time, but any time that they've taken that is associated with their leave, you can tally that up and get an idea of where the employee is in their intermittent. I will tell you, we do occasionally, we're pretty good at knowing when an employee on an intermittent leave is getting close to exhausting that so that we can notify the department that the employee is now moving off of a job protected leave and now might need a personal leave. But that is how the manager can sort of self-service themselves and not have to maybe wait on a report back from us. Getting a head start on a leave of absence for an employee within your department. This is not a requirement, but if the department felt that the employee needed some guidance on starting the leave process, there are 2 forms in which we need as soon as possible if the employee needs to go out very quickly. One of them is the leave of absence request form. If you hover over this, there is a link to that form and the employee fills it out themselves. Now, if they are not able to fill out the entire form for themselves, that's fine. When the leave coordinator meets with them for a consultation, we work with them to go through that form to determine exactly what their need is and how much time they intend to be away and how they would like to be paid. The medical certification forms, there are 2 forms depending on the type of leave the employee will be out on. One is for themselves and one is for a family member. Those they take to a doctor to obtain the medical approval in their time away. The doctor provides, the start and return dates. This is, again, if you feel as the department, you want to help them get a head start, these 2 forms will really help push their leave into the fast track of getting themselves situated and set up for that leave of absence. how you can contact us. If you're looking for who is my leave coordinator for the department, you can go to the locate your team by division and select that. We now have a portal in which the employee can initiate a leave. You can direct them to the portal to initiate. Once they've initiated, filled out a few questions, an email is generated to us, and it informs us that an employee has a need for a leave. We don't know what that is yet, but that's for us to then reach back out to the employee and have a conversation or consultation with them. And we now have a general leave email, SHR leave. And so if you're sort of really rushed and don't have the time to locate the leave coordinator, you can go straight to the SHR leave. If you happen to get an out of office from the leave coordinator, you can forward that email straight to SHR leave, and someone else within the team will review and get back to you. Any questions?
So when we're doing, I had heard you say, prior that there is 15 to 21 days that the employee can obtain the medical certification, or it's certified by the leaves department. Mm-hmm. What if for some reason that this person is off for the month or 3 weeks or whatever, and you determine that is not a certified type of leave? What happens then?
So this is where we would engage with employee relations and let them know that the employee has not been able to certify the leave, and whatever policy the department has, they would need to look at that. At that point, we step out of the picture and allow employee relations to sort of do what they need to do. And it might be where they are able to secure a letter from the employee, and then we come back into the picture. If their employee's not able to certify it, then it's really employee relations and the department start having conversations that, we step out of.
Okay, thank you.
Anything that was not addressed in the PowerPoint that you think would be of value going forward in any communication with the department?
I love that you guys put this on. So thank you very much. This is very informative. I've been on campus for 20 years and have gone through many different iterations of leaves and different things like that. And so this is very helpful. There's a financial impact, of course, to units that are always trying to kind of understand leaves and understand, how this works. And I know that you guys don't really talk about that. And so that is something that is really hard on our end as well, to kind of determine, like, okay, is this being paid? Are they using their vacation? Are they using your sick? Is this something that the leaves department discusses with us, or is it the employee putting that in? Because,
we have conversations with the employee on how they will be paid and how we can keep them as whole as possible during the course of their leave. And this is probably something you can mention for any new hire. What we see that becomes the biggest financial impact is that employees have not elected the voluntary short-term disability. And when they don't, the basic does not cover enough.
Okay.
And that's where we're trying to get as creative as possible. That's where the cat leave donation program comes in. But then the employees really relying on their sick and vacation accruals. And we understand that they might not have a high balance, or that they exhaust those balances and then return to work, but you're coming back with nothing.
Right.
It's a very delicate situation. And that might, if you're hearing these things like detecting a leave, perhaps an employee does return and you're still hearing, oh my gosh, there's a need. And they came back to work because they're really in need of that paycheck.
Right.
Maybe I need to let leaves know. And it might not be where they're eligible for a leave, or the leave is the best course of action. Maybe it's, now time to look at disability management because we're kind of taking it up a notch in that they've had all this time off but still need it. Anything we can do to, protect them as long as we can and to provide pay for, as best we can is definitely always part of our conversations and our thought process.
I'm thinking part of your question might
Oh,
be related to if somebody's on a paid leave, then that pay is still coming out of your department. So if you
yes,
need to know that, you could always look in their time card and you will see,
Okay.
because we're basing it on what they've said. They may be in a medical leave, but
Right.
there's a period of time that they want to use their accruals rather than go apply for disability because it's 100% of their pay. So you can always see that in their time card as as the manager, you always have access to
So
look at
that's
that.
how we will be able to know how they're getting
Yeah.
paid.
I mean, you could always email us and say, hey, is this a paid leave or unpaid? And we can tell you the duration in which it's paid or unpaid. That's not
Okay. Great. Yeah. Because that's always been kind of, especially now during the budget times, we want to, the cat leave's a hard one because if someone does get a lot of hours, your unit's still paying. It's not coming from another unit they donate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always difficult. So it's I'm trying to kind of understand that bigger picture. And
I would say that's where, once an employee does exhaust that job protection time, it can open the door for the departments to have more of an input. And yes, we understand that. I think it's not always at the forefront of like our conversations with the department, but the department should know that there are options.
okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Joyce.